In this section, we are going to look at some additional Ansible modules in a bit more detail. This is required so we can practice developing some more meaningful playbooks. Ansible modules are categorized into various groups based on their functionality. As I said earlier, there are hundreds of Ansible modules available, so they are categorized into some of these. System modules are actions to be performed at a system level, such as modifying the users and groups on the system, modifying IP tables and firewall configurations, working with logical volume groups, mounting operations, or working with services, for example, starting, stopping, or restarting services in a system. Command modules are used to execute commands or scripts on a host. These could be simple commands using the command module or an interactive execution using expect by responding to prompts. You could also run a script on the host using the script module. File modules help with working with files, for example, using the ACL module to set and retrieve ACL information on files, use the archive and unarchive modules to compress and unpack files, use find, line in file, and replace modules to modify the contents of an existing file. Database modules helps in working with databases such as MongoDB, MS SQL, MySQL, or PostgreSQL to add or remove databases or modify database configurations, etc. The cloud section has a vast collection of modules for various different cloud providers like Amazon, Azure, Docker, Google, OpenStack, and VMware being just a few of them. There are a number of modules available for each of these that allow you to perform various tasks such as creating and destroying instances, performing configuration changes in networking and security, and managing containers, data centers, clusters, virtual networking, vSAN, and a lot more. And then there are Windows modules that help use Ansible in a Windows environment. Some of them are WinCopy to copy files, WinCommand to execute a command on Windows machine, and there are a bunch of other modules available to work with files on Windows, create an IIS website, install a software using MSI installer, making changes to registry using regedit, and manage services and users in Windows. These are just few modules in few categories. There are lots more, and a comprehensive list can be found at docs.ansible.com along with detailed instructions on each of them. Let's look at few of these modules in detail to understand how you can use them and how to read the documentation page. We will start with command module. The command module is used to execute a command on a remote node. The parameters of the command module, as listed in the documentation page, is shown here. Shown is a sample Ansible playbook using the command module. As you can see, to use the module, you simply create a key value pair of the module name and the parameter, which is the command in this case. In this case, we are instructing Ansible to run the date command on the host, followed by executing the cat etc resolve.conf command to list the contents of the file. In case you needed to change directory before executing a command, for example, I will rewrite the second command in a different form now by removing etc from the cat command and setting change directory parameter to etc. This will ensure that Ansible changes directory to etc before executing the command. This is how a parameter and value is passed to the command module. The creates parameter is used to perform a check before the command is run. For example, this command to create the folder will only run if the folder does not already exist. The remaining parameters are self-explanatory, so we will skip them except for this one right here called freeform. This is worth looking at as you may see it in different modules. Freeform indicates that this module takes a freeform command to run. So what does that mean? You will not be able to input a parameter with the name freeform, like how we just inputted chdir or creates. Our command input, such as cat etc resolve.conf or mkdir/folder, is the freeform input. Not all modules support input like this. For example, the copy module, which is used to copy files from a source to a destination, only takes parameterized input and not freeform input. So as you can see here, copy requires a source file as a src parameter and destination as dest parameter. Another module to look at is the script module. The script module executes a local script on one or more remote nodes after transferring it. To run a script on one or hundreds of servers, you really don't have to copy it over to all the servers first. Ansible takes care of automatically copying the script to the remote node and then executing it on the remote systems. This is done through a very simple play that looks like this. Use the script module and specify the location of the script on the Ansible controller machine and the arguments. Let's look at the service module. The service module is used to manage services on a system, such as starting, stopping, or restarting a service. The sample Ansible playbook is used to start various services in a particular order. First, we start the database service using the service module. The service module, unlike the previous modules, do not have a freeform input, which means you have to pass input in a key value pair format. We use the name parameter to specify the name of the service we wish to start, in this case PostgreSQL, and the state parameter indicates the operation we would like to perform, in this case started. Now, if you are wondering why it is started instead of start, hold on to your thoughts. We will come back to that in a bit. There are two ways writing this statement. You can either write it like this or write it in a dictionary or map format like this. They are one and the same. Remember, in YAML's terms, name and state are properties of a service. So if you look at the difference on the left, you have the parameters passed in as name equals PostgreSQL and state equals started. But on the right, you have the name and state defined in a more YAML format, and in the next line as a key value pair separated by a semicolon. Both of these are one and the same. Let's add a few more tasks to start HTTPD service and nginx service. So back to our question on why the action is started and not start. If we were to instruct Ansible to start a service, we would say start the service HTTPD and not started the service HTTPD. So then why is it started and not start? We are not instructing Ansible to start the service. Instead, we are instructing Ansible to ensure that the service HTTPD is started. That essentially means if HTTPD service is not already started, start it. If HTTPD service is already started, then don't do anything. This is called idempotency. As per the Ansible documentation, an operation is idempotent if the result of performing it once is exactly the same as the result of performing it repeatedly without intervening actions. Thus, started, stopped, and restarted actions instruct Ansible to ensure the state of the service. Majority of the modules in Ansible are idempotent, and Ansible highly recommends this. The overall idea is that you should be able to run the same playbook again, and Ansible should report that everything is in an expected state. If something is not, Ansible takes care of putting it into the expected state. Let's look at another module called the line in file module. The line in file module is used to find a line in a file and replace it or add it if it doesn't already exist. For example, we are given a task to add a new DNS server into the etc/resolve.conf file. This simple Ansible playbook using the line in file task adds the new name server information into the etc/resolve.conf file. Remember, the line in file module is idempotent. Let's compare this Ansible playbook with a simple script that tries to achieve the same result. If this script is run multiple times, it adds a new entry into the file each time, which is not desired. If you run the Ansible playbook multiple times, it will ensure that there is only a single entry in the file. We will stop there with modules. We will be touching other additional modules in the remainder of the course while we discuss other concepts and look at more playbook examples. As I said earlier, there are hundreds of other modules available. You really don't have to remember all these modules and their parameters. You can always have the Ansible documentation page as a reference or use the command line to list and browse through available modules. In the upcoming coding exercises, we will be providing documentation about each module, so you should be good there too.